Yeah, yeah, it's a blessing, man. Definitely a blessing, man.
Yeah, man, especially what we
Forward
hear
to
from.
another.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I guess I wanted to kind of kick things off by saying it's important that we have these discussions. It's important that we let people hear, our perspective as much as possible, and I'm learning more and more how important it is. And being able to connect with brothers like you makes it even stronger, it makes it even more powerful to even be able to do. So um I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm Paine the Poet. That's Paine the Poet. Follow me here on at Paine the Poet. I was incarcerated 8 years in the Virginia penitentiary system on gun charges. Um, since my incarceration, I've used my talents for spoken word to kind of articulate the experience of what it's like pre-incarceration and post-incarceration, and the kind of the things that may lead a young person down the path of incarceration, and some of the things that while incarcerated can further hinder a person's growth, or some of the things that allow you to mature in that situation, and the fine line in between the two. So being able to share my experiences, being able to share my story has allowed me to reach the people who are like me, who may not understand some of the things that I've already gone through, or have gone through things that they felt like they were alone in dealing with. So it kind of makes a person feel a lot better, a lot more have a lot more heart in approaching situations when you know there's people next to you that have gone through those same things. Or passes brother Halim.
Oh man, thank you, man. First of all, man, I'm doing great today. I'm peaceful, I'm alive, I'm healthy. I'm thankful for that. And my name is Halim Flowers. Um, I was incarcerated at the age of 16 for a murder that I did not commit. I was convicted under the accomplice liability doctrine of felony murder, sentenced to 2 indeterminate life sentences out of Washington, D.C. My experiences as a child receiving the unjust life in an adult prison system in D.C. And um, while I was incarcerated for 22 years, I started writing poetry. I started my own publishing company. I published 11 books. 4 of the books were poetry books. And through my writings, through my poetry, I was able to influence the local DC legislators to uh, enact a new sentencing law in our life, known as the Incarceration Amendment Reduction Act, which was enacted in 2017. And then I was released in March 21st, 2019. And once I came home, I got on the circuit, like, with talking and doing spoken word performances. I was able to do a spoken word West Sunday service. I was able to utilize my speech in Kim Kardashian Justice Project. And I'm also an ambassador for Represent Justice. And since I've been home, I've taken this sort of written poetry and spoken word. And then time I've like segued painting, like photography and painting through the visual arts, and just writing poetry and the knowledge on the canvas, painting it on the canvas, and just expanding the practice of the movement, to enlighten people about how, we as human beings in the prison system are treated as animals. I believe worse than animals. And to use to use my story and use my creativity to bring, first, to abolish the prison system, and but until then, to make it at least a little bit more humane.
I that's peace, man. And just to come from a situation like you came from, and not have a bitter heart, have a hopeful heart, and still be able to push and be creative. that's a effort in itself. You know, a lot of times, as people, I'm not even gonna say as men or women, I'm gonna say as people, you know, a lot of our mental struggles go unnoticed because we don't know how to get them out. Like a lot of things that go on in your head, you don't realize there's something wrong because it's internal. Like, you know, it's kind of a lot of mental issues don't show symptoms that you expect, like a sickness might show, like cause you pain, but your actions will be off, your response to things be off. That anxious feeling when you're in crowds, you know, coming home, you know, so many people moving around you, and you're seeing so many faces at once, and it's like a shock to your system. So being able to reach out to people who are going through that shock and say, hey, it's good, you're good, a lot of times people just want to know, hey, I'm good, like that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
it's taken for granted. I feel like, and I didn't realize it till it was taken from me.
For me, like, you know, the role that poetry and literature and arts plays with me or has impacts me, is that I read like the poetry and the writings of like Lorraine Hansberry and James Baldwin and Langston Hughes. And when I like read their poetry along with what they were going through then, people like Asada Shakur, what she was going through when she was locked up, and reading her poetry, and people like that who looked like me and went through things similar to what I was going through and what we are going through today on the outside, it kind of like it didn't kind of it gave me the strength, because when I read the poetry of Nelson Mandela and I'm looking at his first 18 years on Robben Island out of his 27 years, like those prison conditions were a little bit worse in South Africa than what I experienced in America. So reading his writings and his poetry and those ancestors from before us, I draw strength from that. And that's how I was able to, like, I believe, just not like survive prison and come out broken. I believe I was able to keep myself whole through the strength that I got from my ancestors, who are poets, writers, and artists who wrote plays and poems and movies and songs, because it transferred the strength that they used to get through in the civil rights struggle and Jim Crow. It transferred that strength to me, and I feel like my responsibility as an artist today is to capture that and pay it forward.
And I commend that. Like, that's a major feat in itself, being able to still communicate with people, being able to reach the people who who are in the situation that we're in. And the art is that one way that we can reach that is so palatable for like it spans across so many different kind of people. It connects people.
Right.
You know, I'm able to go on a stage and share my experiences artistically, and you can feel what I felt for that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can understand there's somebody that maybe to your left or your right that felt that too, and
Mm-hmm.
now you develop a level of empathy for situations that are outside of the ones of your own. And I try my best to reach as many people as possible. And as I progress, in the arts, you like paths open up and opportunities open up, and that extends you to larger audiences. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that a positive message, a message of encouragement, a message of strength, like, should always be propelled to the people, and we work hard on what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Every painting you do, everything you've written, like, we put so much effort into this, and to be able to do it in this capacity, where we're speaking to and helping people that are like us, who don't often get spoken to. Or I noticed, like, you brought up the poets that inspired you. There's a poet named Etheridge Knight, and
Mm-hmm.
if you read a lot of his poetry, you see that his incarceration wasn't too different from ours, and it was years ago.
Right.
You know, it was years before. So when you see the state of the penitentiary system then, and not much has changed to now, that just goes to further show how important it is that people, that there's awareness brought, like people understand what's going on, because like it's honestly going to continue if we don't bring awareness and get people to call to action. It's like, you know, every poem should be a call to action, you know, in one way or another, regardless of what you're talking about. It's just where it comes from, the source it comes from is like that. It's like call to action saying, hey, this is what's going on, and this is what we can do to change it. Let's bond together to combat this thing. And every opportunity I get to be a part of anything like that, that's just even better. It makes all the struggle worth. Is much more people than just in our notebook in the cell. You know what I'm saying? It started there. Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying it started there, because, you know, I'm talking about, but the passion for change for me was when I was sitting in that cell and write, and it felt like the words would just hit the wall. And it was like, that's as far as it could go. But
Mm-hmm.
when I saw it different, when I was able to see that I can reach thousands, millions, you know what I'm saying? Possibly, that it's inspirational in itself.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that you mentioned, like the conditions of those like Etheridge Knight and Angela Davis and Huey Newton and George Jackson, the Sada Shakur, just naming some of the incarcerated poets and writers from
Mm.
for our generation, similar conditions in the prison system. And one of the things, because Angela Davis is a big source of inspiration to me, and one of the things that she mentioned recently in an interview with Michelle Alexander was that had you asked her when she was in prison in 1970, 71, did she believe that, because at that time it was only like 300,000 people locked up in America, that at the state, the energy that the movement had back then to eradicate a lot of the inhumane racist uh, culture practice in America, had you told her back then that with all of the movement that they had going on back then, that in the 2000s, that the prison system would be over 2 million people, she said there's no way that she would have believed it. So one of the things that I've learned, like the role that, you know, writing and creativity and poetry has in the social justice movement, in particular for incarcerated people, is that we cannot let our movements die. It has to be, as you stated, it has to be creativity that calls to action, but it has to be not only just a call to action that's like trending, but a call to action that's cultural, right? You have to like shift culture, because if you don't, I mean, we had great actors and great artists and writers, people who influenced us, like, you know, Etheridge Knight, Angela Davis, all the people that we named. But the incarceration situation has only gotten worse. So now I think it's like for us to learn from that, not to look at it in the negative sense, but to understand our role as artists and creative people today, to understand that we can't allow this to become, you know, the civil rights era and the Black Power movement, and then we go straight into the crack era and lose everything, right? We have to understand that, okay, when we have a strong movement going on, anti-mass incarceration, history informs us that after slavery is a 13th Amendment to perpetuate slavery in a different form. After the Black Power movement, the Civil Rights movement, it's the crack and mass incarceration. You know, it's the war on drugs that comes right after it, you know, to take away from the gain. So as an artist, for me, it's just like about drawing from the inspiration from our ancestors and those who are still standing today, like Angela and Sardis Core, and learning from the culture of the counterculture that comes with against the movement, right? And to not allow that to kill what we have today. until this mass incarceration thing is over with.
And like, to piggyback off that, another thing that I believe is changed for the better is there's more and more of us that, while incarcerated, feel like they're still fighting us. You know, there's more and much, like, you see films like Just Mercy. You hear stories of people who are still triumphant. Like, you know, you hear stories like yours. You see so many people that never gave up. You know, gave up on freedom, never gave up on the chance to even be something. They've been incarcerated authors, multiple painters, like some, and of course poets and hip hop artists and singers, and the people that did not let incarceration like strip them of, what I'm saying, who they were, who they knew they were as artists and people general. And that's and that can happen. So every time we get to speak, every time we get to go to an institution, we can instill, we can light that fire in people to let them know, hey, this is not the end. This is not the end. This is the speed bump, you know. And if we the more and more we help pull these people over these speed bumps and these pitfalls that honestly are set up against us. You know, you can look at the statistics in other countries. You know, we all know and understand America incarcerates more people than almost any three countries combined. One
Mm-hmm.
country incarcerates more than three, like any random three too. Like, it's what they said. And then I know I've partnered with organizations of people that have went to like Norway and look at the prison system there, where the maximum time ever given was 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's rare. Where here, I've seen 17-year-old boys get 20 years and like, oh man, I got off light. Like, and really feel, you know, that's a break.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are able to show strength after incarceration, that lets more people know I can change, I can do something different. There's something out there for me. Like, it's really defeating that thought that there's nothing out there for you. And a lot of times the world and its environments that we come from will make you believe that there's nothing else but that. You know, the world seems so small when you grow up, in poverty. The world seems small. It doesn't seem like you can do all the stuff you see on TV. That just seems like TV, and then things, when you look at incarcerated African Americans in this country, look at the percentage of crimes that are based on poverty. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the robberies, the drug charges, some of the homicide charges have to do with money involved. So when you look at like the crimes as a result of poverty, just people like doing anything to provide, doing anything, and not saying it's justified in doing it. It's just a misconception. And when we educate ourselves beyond the misconception, and we educate ourselves in the fact that there are systems designed to keep us incarcerated, it's clear. Like, it's come to a point where the facts are so blatant, you would be a fool to just deny it's right in front of your face. The numbers are just the alarming rates of the people I see in the Innocence Project who have been locked down for 20 plus years, and then just get a pat on the back and told I'm sorry, and then got to get let because they were innocent. Brothers like you, it's just like, this is what goes on here, and it doesn't go on in this rate in any other place. And that's the thing. When you look at that fact, we're all people on this earth. On this earth, we're all people. We are constructed of the same things. So you mean to tell me here are the worst people? Because this is where you have everybody locked up. This is the most dysfunctional people, because this is where you lock up the most people. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. And there's something that has to be brought to light so everybody can see. It's kind of like, you've done time, so you understand, like, the out of sight out of mind thing. Even with family, you right. They have intentions of keeping up with you, but sometimes it goes a long time without a letter. Sometimes it goes a while without a call, because out of sight out of mind. You're not present in their life every day, so it's kind of, over time, you start to detach from their lives because you're not present.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at a situation like the incarceration issue in this country, it's so removed from certain people's lives that they don't know that there's an issue that they could be helping with. They don't know that there's their voice, their votes, their marching, all this can help, end the problem in this country, because it's so many people it's removed from them. So our voices can shine a light to the people that, hey, this is going on, and this is the rate that it's going on, and this is what how it's going on in comparison to other places, just to show you that it's got to be a local issue. This is not a worldly problem. It's a systemic problem, a problem that's here, and a problem that can be fixed.
So how do you think, like, as how can we use our poetry, our writing activity, um, to reach people in ways like that organizing and the strategies cannot? Because we have Black Lives Matter, we have a lot of different organizing and strategies going on, but what what unique ways that we can use our creativity, our platforms as poets, spoken word artists, and painters and photographers to reach people in ways that organizing the strategies can.
So I was told this once, when you're a child and it's time, you got to get medicine. Your parents used to try to do everything. They might give you a little bit of juice right after it, or they might mix it in some applesauce to make it, to help you, take it. And I believe that, when it comes to something everybody's going to receive things differently. So there's some people that you just go to them with the facts, say, hey, these are the numbers, this is what's going on, and they're like, wow, I'm with you, boom. There's some people that have to go through it to understand, like, man, I didn't even know it was like that, and this just happened to me, so I need to change this.
Mm-hmm.
But then, there's people that the arts really reach them better than just reading the numbers, and they, or they may have gone through it, but they don't understand that they can possibly change. And sometimes the arts help inspire that in people. Like, everybody receives the message different. So if we can just be one branch, of like how to extend the message, we could be just one branch of that, then I think that's a beautiful thing.
Um, what are like, who are some of the poets you like? How did you get? I know I got to poetry through my friend, childhood friend Mamadou Stewart. He's a rapper and he would rap all the time. And I got into freestyle rapping when we were kids, and then I went to jail and I started writing rap songs. And then I met a woman who was a poet, and in order for me to get her to come see me, I started writing her poetry. And poetry became a thing for me in prison to get women to come see me, because when you're doing 2 life sentences, don't nobody want to rock with you. So for me, my initiation to this beautiful craft was something that I used as a conduit of intimacy, because being in prison, if you're heterosexual, you don't have contact, conjugal relations with women. So the only way that I can transfer the intimacy that was craving to come out of me would be through writing letters, love letters, and poetry. And then I transitioned as I grew to utilize that to in the form of activism, right? But what's getting, becoming poet and transitioning into spoken word?
Hold on. All right, my bad. Um, so what happened with me? I've always been a rapper. I've always been a
Mm-hmm.
writer. I've always been creative. So when I was incarcerated, we were, rapping in the yard. We was in the cipher on the yard all the time. Me and my best friend, who's actually in the other room, Delano, and we met. It was they hired a person in our institution called an offender workforce development specialist. And what this person was supposed to do was like teach you how to fill out applications and He even taught some guys how to tie a tie, how to sit in an interview, and things like that. And he wanted, and it was a new position, and it was something new that they were trying. So, what he wanted to do is he wanted to find a way to reach the population and tell them, hey, sign up on the list. You can come here and do this. He tried to get that information out. And he was walking around the yard and he saw a big crowd of people. In the middle was me and my brother, my best friend, and we going back and forth rapping, And he said, "Hey, I want to try to use that to gather the attention. Maybe we could put together an event in the visitation room for the population, and that way we can, get the message out. Hey, this is what's going on, da da da. And I want to use y'all music to help, help the event." And he said, "Let's come up with some ideas of what we can do." And they put, songs, they put skits, and at the bottom he put spoken word. Now at the time, I had never done a poem ever, never did a spoken word poem ever, and I was like, I can do that, and I just stood up and said it, and I went back to the pod at the time. I'm in the dorms at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
I start writing. I write my first spoken word piece. We do the event, and I'm never nervous performing like rapping because it's my comfort zone. But when
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this and I'm looking in the room, who's all in there? All the dope boys, all the killers is in here. Like this is not, you know what I'm saying, the regular audience. So I'm doing a poem to these dudes, and I'm like, So I do it, and everybody stand up. Dudes is in tears. People is hugging me. It's crazy. It's the craziest response I ever got. And when I came back to the pod, um, bro was like, "Hey man, you brought that Paine today, man. That's what you should call yourself that, man. You should be Paine."
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Man, you Paine the poet," and I've been Paine the poet ever since. And coming home, I was doing open mics, and I ran into a guy that connected me to an organization called Split This Rock. It's in DC, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so through them, I was doing local events. I was speaking at youth institutions. I was able to move around and perform and make other connections, and things just progressed from there. And now I'm a poet for a living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I had wrote millions of poems during my operation, but I never really like looked into like doing spoken word. But then when I came home, I was able to get a fellowship Echoing Green and then another fellowship with Halcyon Arts Lab in Georgetown in DC. And the Halcyon they had like their second By the People Festival, which is like a big art festival all around the city. And they asked me to do a spoken word performance, and I did it like with the shackles and chains on and the orange jumpsuit. And I had to memorize, like, I never memorized my poetry. So I had to memorize 45 minutes worth of poetry. And then ever since then, people just wanted me to go speak at different events about prison reform, criminal justice, and implement the poetry into the talks. But then I started like I had like when they did a documentary on me when I was 16, they had pictures of me when I was like, with the shackles and chains on. So I like took that photography and started poetry on it. And that led me into the visual art world. And then once we went on the quarantine, my wife was like, won't you let's get some stuff to start painting. And that's how I started painting just during the quarantine. And that like then opened up so many doors. But really at my core I'm just a poet and I'm just using imagery to convey the same things that I would with the spoken word and the poetry. And then to be able to blend it is just like a beautiful thing. And I'm just interested in seeing like once the world opened back up, where this takes me at.
I believe, speaking from experience, it's going to be amazing what happens for you. Like, I'm gonna just tell you now, when you push forward with the positivity and you got that kind of drive in your heart, I promise you, like, it's not gonna do anything but work out. Like it happened for me, and I just kept being determined that this is what I was supposed to do. It felt the most right. Like it felt like this is it. Like, you know, so like I look forward to working with you in the future. I already know like things are going, you know, like continue to, you know, present themselves to you because that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked, how is art connected to your humanity? Uh, Jared Harper. Jared Harper's B9. Okay, how's art connected? So a lot of times, you know, it's a way to process things. Like what I mean by that is you hear, you know, you hear the sad news of George Floyd you hear the sad news of George Floyd dying and how he died and the situation surrounding it. You know, so many thoughts running your head, so many, like you feel so much, you feel this swelling of emotion. The art to us or art to me, I'm able to squeeze that out of me. Like sometimes you gotta, like if you walk around, like all these things affect all of us in different ways, and so much of that news, so much pain, you know, will wear down. And you got to find a way to release. You got to find a way to, you know, calm your heart, you know, and that art kind of helps you, you know, breathe through it, and
Mm-hmm.
it kind of helps people, it help other people cope too. You know, people, you know, it's like how many people on here is a song like when you feel you're not when you were going through something, it was a song you kept listening to on repeat, or when you feel good, it's a certain song you like to hear. You know, it's that same type of thing. You know.
Yeah, for me, it's like first. That's a good question. I forgot to ask the people who listening. You know, any questions that you could have, any questions that you have for either one of us. You know, present your questions. We definitely will, you know, respond. For me, first foremost, it stood out to me about that question is what is humanity, right? Because I believe that in our society, we have so many social constructs that we attach to human beings, whether it's race, gender, creed, sexuality, right? It's so many different things that I think that our organic perspective that we're born with and that it's most pure when we're children that we have about what it means to be human, I believe that gets skewed as we learn so many social constructs. And I think that we kind of have to like unlearn to go back to our childlike to really understand what humanity is. And I think that as an artist, it helps me to connect to that part of me because once I get into like the creative process, it's like I have no care or concern about these social constructs that bind people or that are used to like separate people along all the different social constructs. So it's like I can go into my own world that I had when I was a child in the living room, throwing the football to myself, or just playing, being joyful, you know. And I think as artists, we when we get into that space to create, we're so joyful and so pure in the passion that we bring to the creativity that once we package that up into a song or a poem or a painting, it transferred to the audience. And that it helps them to connect to that part that makes them humane, meaning that pure childlike state when we could live freely without being shackled to meeting the expectations of what others think about us or how others value us, right? Because once we get into that, then it's like we're always slaves to if I rock these shoes or if I rock my hair this way, they discriminate against me. You know, if I paint this way, then you know it's not going to sell. You know what I'm saying? So I think once you get into this space where you can create without those social constructs shackled on your brain, you can tap into the pure state of your humanity that we were born with and train. at the people, and they can feel it on a visceral level.
I definitely feel you on that. And to to even add something to it, growing up in certain environments, you can attach yourself to negative characteristics. People get respect for being able to fight. Oh, you knock dudes out. You're known for that. So when that becomes your identity, you live in that identity. Oh, you the dude that rob, you the dude that sell drugs. When you wear that as an identity, this controls your actions. Now if you the dope boy and you think that's respect, that's the respect that you're getting. This is become your identity. But when you strip that and you become the artist,
Mm-hmm.
now you have a positive identity. Now you have, oh, cool. I'm the poet. I write. I express through them. There's a that's a better path than some of the paths that a lot of people we know have been on. I know that I was on myself at one time where I just had a negative identity. And what was crazy, when you come from an impoverished environment, the lawyers, the doctors, anybody from that neighborhood that maybe have become a doctor, they don't live there no more because they're doing better. So it's not like growing up in a neighborhood where you live next door to the doctor and across the street is the lawyer. It's you don't you hear about these things, but they're not present in your everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
So even a lot of us dudes become athletes, and they live where the team is at, what I'm saying, or they got a mansion somewhere in the hills, and because they're successful, as you
Mm-hmm.
should, you progress. But what happens is, the kids have no face-to-face example with anything other than
What
what's in
society,
front of them. And a lot of times, you said what?
what society deems to be a failure.
Exactly, exactly. And there's so many, and there's liquor stores and tobacco stores everywhere around every neighborhood. Is 10 corner stores with high fructose corn syrup food, and what I'm saying, it's there's no farmers markets, and there's what I'm saying, you gotta travel to get, you know um it's in the community. There's no fresh produce in the community, healthy foods, right there, but it's always going to be fast food and liquor stores everywhere. And that's all you're going to see. You're going to see homelessness surrounding it. And when a child growing up in that, you know, the ones that make it from it, the ones that go to school, the ones that um become successful, it's even more, it's that's is even more beautiful, because you the odds were against you. Statistically, you weren't supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So art being able to give that positive identity, and people like you and I being able to show people from our backgrounds, like, hey man, this is what you can do. This is what you can do with your thoughts. This is what you can do. This is a possibility. And I'm right here in the flesh to show you this is a possibility. I made it from,
Right.
I think that's an important part of it.
Um, I know we coming close to our time. I would be honored, man, for you to to spit something for us, man, and you know
Yeah, I had lost power. I'm back. I had lost power. My bad, people. We had some technical difficulties over here. Let's see if we can get Halim back in. Had some technical difficulties, but we're back. Let me get Halim back on here.
All right.
Yeah, my fault. Had some technical difficulties over here, but
Okay,
we're
man.
back.
Fine order, man. Everything going
Um,
in order, man. We was about to hear you drop something on us.
yeah, definitely, and I'm still ready for that. Um, this poem is real close to me. It's called "Please Don't Judge Us." I hope it does for you what it does for me. Please just vibe with me. Please don't judge us. No. You see, a lot of us were the victims of the ones that love us. See, a lot of us had wayward fathers, undereducated mothers. I know dudes that hustle with cousins, all dealing to brothers, but we're just the victims of the ones that love us. Please don't judge us. You see, we only wanted acceptance. So as adolescents, we fell fast to familiar faults and all that foul perception. We used to think drugs would get us paid, and some would pray that pistols protect us. We know no other life than the life lived by others before us, so we run in circles for any feeling of fortune while being mindlessly moved by the minor materials, mainly because as kids we used to think it's important. I remember feeling the drug dealer was supportive. He drove me to school. He bought me the Jordans. He taught me money over everything. The dollar's important, and we were conditioned to see that working the job's hard, but the old heads got checks for unemployment, and no matter what, never trust any member of the law's enforcement. They never had nothing for us. We just see him take family from us. No matter how hard we try to tell him he's just a victim of the ones that love him, no matter how hard we beg him to please, don't judge him. They don't understand. This all started as babies. Bottles and Pampers. We were the sons of fathers as absent and fathered examples. If she was the daughter of a promiscuous mother, that little girl might not know what love is. It's a vicious cycle. So many of us get caught in its clutches, and so many of us will soon have kids that are destined to suffer, and it hurts. Looking in the eyes of those kids, harsh destiny touches. See them staring out the back of a squad car when they arrest them and cuff them. Fresh out of frying pan into an oven, the heat on 400. We're raising a fire that aids our destruction. We're raising a world where it's all or it's nothing. We're raised by mothers who always wanted marriage, but see, they never could trust it. They were always victims of the ones that love them, but please, don't judge them. Don't call our women products of the projects that fall beyond that. I put my palm on my chest, my hand with my heart at. I swear to God, we tried. It's just that the reality of the world fed us is a lie, and the only way we could live is to fight for our lives in this cold, cold world. This is the same place where we see rap songs raise our sons, Jerry Springer and Maury, that fathered our girls. And the judicial system, well, you see, they allow a judge to slam a gavel and say a verdict that takes a dad from his son just to decide and he don't deserve him. And it's wild. The court system purposely picks a person that picks out and points the fingers at people as if they're worthless. Beneath the surface, they've patterned themselves as perfect when judges and prosecutors are put in places to hurt us. And it's clear they feel we're irrelevant. I've seen a sex offender get a slap on the wrist, but a 17-year-old black kid in a clear case of self-defense get hit with the time they hit Mandela with. To say we're treated equal, you got to be insulting my intelligence. Now, I apologize for my incarceration. I spent 8 years gone, 8 years long, and I was wrong. I tried to explain and I succumbed to circumstances far beyond my knowledge's reach, resulting in my actions extending the distance further than my understanding could see. It was back against the wall, suffocated under circumstances, and y'all, I needed money to eat. But thinking about it leaves this sour taste in my mouth because now making it out may have been more probable than previously perceived. But in moments of stress, your reflex overpowers contemplation and situations deceive. So hindsight can't accurately express what I had momentarily believed. I just knew it was back against the wall, suffocated under circumstances. And y'all, I needed money to breathe. I'm just grateful that my family still love me. I'm even more grateful that they pray to a Lord above me in this world so ugly. And I just ask that y'all do the same. Please, don't judge me. Peace.
Thank y'all for listening. I really appreciate y'all.
Peace.
Peace. I hope to talk to all of y'all soon. Keep